Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I think there's an interesting little lesson that's going on right now that maybe people can take advantage of. But She-Hulk. So this character is coming out in a brand new title. Marvel announced that they were intending to put out a new She-Hulk book as part of their kind of tentpole series. Now, when they announced this several weeks ago, we didn't know what that meant. Was that a one-shot? Was it a limited series? Some of those books that are part of their tentpole set are limited series. One of the things I said at the time, and no, this is not me patting myself on the back, although maybe just a little bit, feels good. Yeah, it's feels good to pat myself on the back. It's good for the muscles. It's anyway. No, sorry. I said that at the time they were most likely going to revert She-Hulk back into the lawyer kind of the Byrne-esque version, or the Dan Slott version, if you prefer that. But that kind of more classic 80s, 90s, aughts version of the character, as opposed to the current version that we've been seeing running around in the Avengers. And the reason I said that was not any kind of genius prediction. It was the fact that the Disney Plus show is going to feature She-Hulk in that version. That's going to be the one more people will watch than will have ever read the title. And so, shocking, I would suspect the comic book would move back to take advantage of this. And we've seen that it will. So now this new book is coming out. This new book art looks solid. It's got Adam Hughes covers. It's got Rainbow Rowell on writing, which will be an interesting twist. It's funny. Well, we'll get to it in a second. But Rainbow Rowell, who's recently done the Runaways series. It took me a minute to get there. It hasn't been great. I think Rainbow Rowell is a YA author, and for whatever reason has stuck around Marvel a lot longer than some of the other YA author experiments that Marvel has done. Rainbow Rowell has stuck. I would say that the reaction to Rowell is not great. Runaways sold pretty terribly in the store, but she's not offensively terrible either. Like you rarely see, every now and then, but you rarely see people get up a lot of anger about Rowell. There was this kind of really dopey story where Wolverine went to go retrieve the girl in Runaways, Molly, and it was just written terrible. It made Wolverine look bad. It made Molly look bad. It made the mutants on Krakoa look like weird kidnappers. I mean, it all was kind of strange, and it got some angry comments, but nowhere close to the amount of videos that, say, a Mags, Gail Simone, Vita gets. Like, nowhere, not even in the same stratosphere. Rainbow Rowell typically flies under the radar. So now Rainbow Rowell's on this new book, and I was waiting to see what would the reaction be? Would people be coming in here going, another example of Marvel putting a terrible writer on the book? No. The reaction has been, I won't say universally positive, because there's definitely been a few people who have said that, but it's like 99% positive. And why? We've seen a cover, and we've seen a second cover, and we've seen a little bit of solicitation text that basically says, we're bringing back the bronze, brains, and beauty, I think. Although in some cases they're not saying beauty. Anyway, it's that She-Hulk. So what can we learn about all this? Well, to look at it, let's look at what happened. So Mariko Tamaki did this original take on She-Hulk. And the pitch, because we've actually seen the pitch, Marvel printed the pitch, I think in an attempt to kind of win people over with it. The pitch was due to a horribly traumatic event. In this case, it was a near-death experience fighting Thanos at the beginning of Civil War II. And Civil War II is just the cursed event. That was an event nobody wanted. It came right on the heels of two things. Secret Wars, where people were kind of felt like that was a good kind of, not burnout, but they were done with events. And then we got Civil War II coming right after that. There was also a Civil War II inside of Secret Wars, which made it all the more weird and confusing. It featured Iron Man and Captain Marvel. Iron Man, who was in kind of a weird position as a character, and Captain Marvel, who was just not sticking in the minds of a lot of fans. People felt Marvel was pushing her on them. And then it also featured heavy usage of the Inhumans, which nobody was interested in at the time. And then it crammed Thanos in there for no apparent reason. Bendis was on his way out at Marvel and clearly didn't care. It was setting up the Secret Empire event with evil Captain America, who had just been turned Hydra. Like, you can go down the list of all the ways that this event was cursed at this point. And the kickoff to this was this idea that Thanos is going to beat uh, Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, so badly she would be, near death. And basically we learned later she had died, and just because of Immortal Hulk rules came back to life. And so Tamaki's pitch was, I'm going to put Jen, who's always been this powerful, confident type character, into this scared, shell-like state, and and who has uncontrollable fits of rage, and it's going to result in a kind of the gray Hulk, the more primal, evil, not evil, but primal, angry Hulk. This kind of rage, out of control aspect to her character. She was always this kind of buttoned-up lawyer, had things under control, and this is going to be this rage monster that she's going to be fighting. I'll say this. As a pitch, that's not a bad idea. Civil War II aside, because I was just terrible, but Tamaki's pitch was not a bad plan. However, it stumbled on the sense that Marvel was making all of these changes to characters that people didn't want a new take on She-Hulk. They really kind of wanted some familiarity. And so this idea of like, we're going to turn her kind of inward and we're going to make it. And then Tamaki's script itself had her dealing with like a reality cooking show and just storylines that neither fit the character nor even the pitch that Tamaki made. They didn't mesh well. And so people tuned out. Now here's where it gets interesting, because Marvel, having seen all this go down, could have said, all right, at the end of Tamaki's run, she actually sort of kind of left the door open to revert She-Hulk back to the John Byrne, Dan Slott version. She kind of like worked through her issues, and that's kind of where Tamaki left it. At that moment, Marvel had the choice to kind of go back. But I believe that some of the editorial or some of the leadership at Marvel, angry that this Tamaki run didn't take, because I think they felt like they had a really good pitch on their hands, which again, as I said, it's not a bad pitch if it just said it the way I said it. It's the execution that went wrong. But Marvel, if there's one thing about them, they don't like to admit they're wrong or that something didn't work. In fact, even when something bombs terribly, they will go to the mat saying, no, it didn't, it was successful. Even if you put all the charts and figures and graphs we want in front of them, they will continue to steadfastly say, no, it was great. So rather than revert She-Hulk, which is absolutely where Tamaki seemed to set it up at the end of her run, instead Jason Aaron takes a character, and Jason Aaron, who is a bit of a... The only thing I can say, and I'd love to interview him and I'll ask him directly, is he trolling the fans from time to time? Because some of his Thor run, and particularly Jane Foster bits, but even later, he would put stuff into his writing that seemed to be trolling to some extent, trolling some of the reaction he knew he was getting. And I do that all the time with my videos. I can't blame him for that. However, the way this manifested was he takes She-Hulk into the Avengers, and then he proceeds to utilize her in several storylines which seem to have the character directly talking to the fans who dislike it. And therein is a horrible mistake. If something's not working with your customers, the answer is don't double down and start making fun of them for the fact that it wasn't working. And this is exactly what he did. He started having She-Hulk show up and talk about, used to be funny, and it's like She-Hulk herself now, and just kind of this, he leaned into this. Marvel proceeded to put a bunch of artists on this title, which also leaned into this idea of this super ugly, insane Hulk. Again, if you go back and you look at the Tamaki run, and this is not me defending Tamaki as any kind of great writer, as I said, the execution didn't play, but the character itself, the drawing of She-Hulk in Tamaki's run, was not this exaggerated, super uglified, monster Hulk. It was definitely more bulky, more monstrous. But if you look at where it went in the Aaron run, it went so much further to where, again, it intentionally felt like the writing and the art was trying to poke at the fans. And in many cases say, see, you're wrong, or we know you don't like this, we're doing it anyway, screw you. That's how it came across. Maybe that's not how Marvel intended it. Probably that's not how Marvel intended it. Maybe Jason Aaron intended it as a way to kind of poke at this angry reader base. But here's the thing. Even if you, assume and acknowledge that a lot of the people who were against it are 0.5% on Twitter. Don't really matter. Sales didn't do good. The sales of Tamaki's run were bad. That's why it got canceled. That's why it ended. When She-Hulk came onto the Avengers, and particularly the She-Hulk-centric issues, also did poorly. That War of the Realms crossover that was very She-Hulk based didn't do well. She-Hulk in this form is not a She-Hulk people want to see. Now here's the other interesting bit I'll throw in here. Dan Slott and John Byrne are about as different as you can get. Both are white guys. But other than that, they're very, very different human beings with very different writing styles and just very different ways of handling the character. However, both of them, who wrote very different takes on She-Hulk, still had, fan approval, for lack of a better word. You had people who wanted to read that version, even though you had two radically different people writing it. So it's not about, hey, we need to stick it to old John Byrne or we need to stick it to Dan Slott or anything else. It's they had a take on the character people wanted to read. So now we fast forward to today, we get this announcement that, hey, there's a new She-Hulk book and she's going back to this look, and you see people super happy. You see a lot of excitement around this character. And even though the writer on this, Rainbow Rowell, who's, again, nobody's super favorite writer, whose Runaways title did not sell well, who I'm sure will get still all the different claims about, being too woke and all the rest. People are still happy about this run. Why? No, not because you can see She-Hulk's tits better now, but because the character is in a mode, in a form, that is what the customers, what the readers want. And before you say, well, you shouldn't just give the readers everything they want, Disney is. The Disney Plus show is using this version, the new version, or the old version, depending on the way you look at it, not the monstrous Tamaki Jason Aaron version. It's using the She-Hulk that Byrne had, that Dan Slott had, and presumably that Rainbow Rowell's going to have. Disney looked at that and said, yeah, this is the one the market wants. We're going to go with this one. We're going to put all this money into the show. This is what they want. Disney absolutely could have made the monstrous Crazy Hulk version. They could have easily adapted the Tamaki run. It's not too expensive with CGI and everything. They could easily do it. In fact, in many cases, it would be probably easier to make a hulking, angry, rage monster-like character than the bigger, bulkier She-Hulk that we're going to get. All that said, Disney went with that version. Disney accepted the fact that that's the more marketable one. Marvel now is following suit. The only disappointing part in all this is Marvel is unlikely to have learned the lesson, which is you went so far against what your readers wanted to buy that they rejected it completely. And then you spent several years mocking them, making fun of the readers and the customers, and basically trying to win some kind of argument that you were right somehow, which you failed, because now you're going back to the way it was. You failed in that argument. Unfortunately, I think Marvel's going to say, oh, well, we aren't going back on what we said. We just need to align to what Disney's doing. We need to align to our corporate overlords. That's why we're doing this. We're not actually changing for the fans. We're changing because this is what Disney is doing. And that's probably true. I think the only reason why we're getting this change is because of Disney, not because somebody at Marvel went, whoa, wait a minute, we're just losing money for no apparent reason. The lesson there is, don't go to war with your customers when it's clear, and not just clear once, but clear, super clear, that this is the wrong way. It's a fascinating little thing to watch. But I do think the whole evolution of all this, I think it's right to try new things. I don't begrudge Tamaki trying that pitch. Why not? I mean, She-Hulk had been around for a long time. Let's try something new. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, good. We should try new things. But when they clearly don't take, reverse course. And the craziest way, again, I didn't make this video trying to stand up and defend Mariko Tamaki by any stretch of imagination, but in her run, she did end it to basically put things back the way they were. It was a conscious choice by Marvel, and ultimately Jason Aaron, how he used her in Avengers, to go the opposite direction. In fact, it was very weird. If you picked up Aaron's Avengers #1, it didn't seem to fit how Tamaki ended the series. She ended the series with Jennifer kind of overcoming some of this stuff. In the first issue of Jason Aaron's Avengers, she's back to kind of being huddled in a little sweatshirt and feeling bad about things. It's bizarre. Anyway, very interesting case events. Curious what you all think. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.